What's up, everybody? How's everybody feeling out there? All right, I think I managed to set up this stream and not also set up another stream, which, by the way, the last time I did a live stream, I set up 2 streams and I never figured out how to cancel the other one. I figured out how to make it private, but I think it's still going. I don't know. I'm retarded, as you guys know. Oh, I probably shouldn't have opened with that right away. Let me know. Do I sound good? I sound okay? Everything's working? Okay. Let me know in the chat. It is, yes, Fat Dave. It is insane how bad I am at all of this stuff. I'm good at like 3 things in life. I'm good at stand-up comedy, talking libertarian stuff, and being a dad. Everything else I am just awful at. I'm a good husband too. 4 things. Okay, but that's it. And everything else I'm just terrible with. Okay, does the audio sound good? Let me know. You guys hear me? Vaping. I'm very good at vaping. That's true. So I'm quiet. Well, yes, audio is fine. Okay. I just monetized my YouTube channel, which I've spent years not doing, and eventually I was convinced that they're like, look, you're coming up on 100,000 subscribers here. You gotta monetize this thing. That's what everybody does. And the people who were convincing me, they made some pretty good arguments. But so I don't know. Maybe it's a big mistake, and I shouldn't have done it. But I guess we shall see. But so if you guys want to, I figured I would do an AMA, talk with you guys for a little bit, answer any questions you have. If you want to do super chats, I think that's an option now. And then those will be the ones that I answer first. But I'll answer some other questions too. So I don't know, whatever we got. Okay. We got David, the young Meacock. What's up, David? I remember I met you last year. Good to hear from you. He's $5 or $4.99 super chat. The first super chat I've ever gotten, David, the young Meacock. That honor, whatever that means, goes to you. Go on Tower Gang tomorrow. Tomorrow, I may not be able to do it, but I will go on Tower Gang. I've been on Tower Gang. I think I don't know how many times, but more than once. And I will gladly go on again. All right. That's second super chat from Couch. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, the Tower Gang guys, please. At this point, they'd be doing me the favor. Those are all the Tim Pool regulars. I need that Tower Gang bump. I'm gonna have to go on. I'm gonna be begging to go on that show pretty soon. I think who's going on tonight? I think it's I think Clint and Top Lobster are going on tonight. Am I right about that? I believe I saw that. So that should be Clint and Top. Yep. Okay. That's gonna be cool, man. I'm very excited to see that. Those guys are great. So I would say I'll be watching live, but I don't know. I'll be putting my kids to bed and then probably hanging out with my wife, but I will watch it. Maybe not live. We'll see. 8 p.m.'s when I have a night off, 8 p.m.'s a little bit of a rough time for me, but I will put it on probably around 9 p.m. I'll throw it on and start from the beginning. All right, what do we got here? Griffin Gaming. All right, $10 super chat. With how in bed Google is with the Fed, this channel won't be monetized for long, LOL. Wanted LPWI, what is that, Wisconsin, to have you for this year's convention, but based on the schedule, it appears that didn't happen. Yeah, I'm gonna try to make it out to as many conventions as I can, as I did last year. Try to do as many as I can, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe how long this channel will last monetized. I guess at a certain point, you just kind of gotta roll the dice with this stuff, and if it doesn't, I'll go to alternative platforms. But I've been able, somehow to get through these last few years without having any problems, but maybe that's because I wasn't monetized. All right, let me see what else we got here. Let me get through the super chats. Carlos Alvarez. said, "What do you think about the alleged vote to get rid of the income tax?" Well, so is this, like I've said this before, I wanna be fair about the way I put this forward. I think that there are, um, like in the House, this, kind of the insurgent group of Republicans, that seem to be led by Matt Gaetz, and then there's a few others who really do seem to be, in a different camp from the establishment Republicans. I think that I like that they gave, that they, put up such a hard time about their speaker vote. I like that they're pushing ideas like, getting rid of the income tax and, or what was it? Abolishing the IRS, I think more specifically. And, there was even proposals of cutting military spending. I like all the stuff with investigating January 6th and all of that. It seems like the way this system works is when the Republicans have a slim, majority in the House and there's a Democratic controlled Senate and a Democratic president, that's when they'll start getting real bold. When there's no chance any of this stuff could actually pass. It would be interesting, or it would be more interesting if, like, when the Republicans actually had, let's say, like in 2016, when they had the presidency, the Senate, and the House, then what did they want to do? And what they wanted to do was like drastically increase government spending from even Obama era levels. So there was no talk of anything like this at that point. And it just feels a lot like, yeah, this is kind of for show. I don't know. That's what I'll say. Okay. Matthew writes, "Are you close to having a debate with a Ben Shapiro or Steven Crowder type on libertarianism?" I don't think I'm close, to that. Not that I know of. Your guess is as good as mine. None of those people have ever, reached out to me or tried to make a debate happen, but I would do that, in a second if either of them wanted to. And, like, I'm a fan of Steven Crowder. I think he does some entertaining stuff, and I think, his critiques of the left are, like, great, and, I have nothing against the dude. I just think I think his critiques of libertarianism are lacking a little bit. All right. Uh okay, Tom says thoughts on Illinois County Sheriff don't enforce Illinois' assault weapons bans. I don't know specifically about that story, but I love anytime sheriffs are saying they won't enforce any type of anti-liberty rules. So that's cool. All right. Jared, in 2024, excuse me, your president, who are your cabinet members? Defense, interior, state, press, foreign, etc. Oh man, that's a fun game to play. All right. Defense, Colonel Douglas McGregor. State Department, who's a good Secretary of State? Let's think. Um, I mean, if Ron Paul wants to do it, maybe Ron Paul would be the guy. If not, I'd let Rand. I'd let Rand be the head of the State Department. Press secretary, do you even have to ask? Do you even have to ask? Obviously, Michael Malice. Before I'm even president, Michael Malice. In fact, I'm gonna write an executive order that says that the president works for the press secretary, and Michael Malice can be the press secretary. Foreign, like I don't know what foreign means exactly. Like national, like what's the term I'm looking for? Like goddamn, what's the name of that position? The like oh, damn, I'm blanking on it. Make it Scott Horton. I don't know. Let's say Scott Horton, Tom Woods, Jeff Deist. That's the rest of my cabinet right there. All right. Street Deer writes, "Do you think having 100 states would lead to more liberty or less distribution of power versus net more government?" Um, that's an interesting question. 100 states, but still under the federal government? I don't know. I don't know if that would be any better. It would certainly be better if there were like 4 united like if the United States of America, if the federal government cracked and there were like 4 federal governments governing way less states. That would be good. Less states within the same federal structure, I'm not sure. It'd probably depend on where the lines are drawn, to be honest. Okay. Wait, already did that one. All right. Tim the anarchist said, "How should libertarians approach a situation where a country actually does end up being a threat? For instance, what if it turns out China is as bad as they say?" Well, I mean, what do you even mean by they end up being a threat? Like, what do they end up doing? What is China gonna do to us? Like, militarily? What are they gonna do? As like, threat is just so vague. What, what does a threat mean? No, like, the people are saying China's a threat, because they're, like, out competing us in many areas, or, that they're investing throughout the world, even in a somewhat fucked up way. They're investing and we're, fighting wars all over the place. If someone was a threat to the United States of America, meaning like a threat to actually invade the country or something like that, it is, as of right now, inconceivable that they could be successful. We have the most well-armed population this size in the world. We have a huge nuclear arsenal, a huge military, 2 oceans surrounding us. If China wanted to come try to invade America, we would pick them off one by one, and they wouldn't make it onto the sand on the Pacific Ocean. So that like, it depends on what you mean by a threat, but I don't think there's anyone who is actually a threat, uh, militarily to the United States of America. All right. Adam asks, can we get Aaron Rodgers into the Mises Caucus LP? Most Americans are not very smart and will do what celebs say. Let's harpoon more notable public figures. Who else can we get? Well, yeah, I'm not against getting more public figures. Aaron Rodgers, I don't know that much about him. I know he took a stand against like getting the vaccine, I think, right? That's like the only thing I know about him politically speaking. Dude's got a cannon. That I know. All right, what else we got? Clef the Misfit. Would you still run if DeSantis was the GOP nominee, or yield to him like that LP guy in Arizona did for Masters, since he shares like 80% of your views? Would it be perfect getting in the way of the good? No. DeSantis running would have no effect on my decision over whether I was going to run or not. I don't think DeSantis shares 80% of my views at all. I think he was a lot better on COVID than just about any other governor, and I think he is against like woke ideology being taught in public schools. I don't know that beyond that he shares too many of my views. So no, I don't. These situations are very, very different. The president is very different than a senator. Masters was a very unique situation. And I know there were people who disagreed with my decision to support him, and I understand why. I think there was an argument to that I shouldn't have supported him. I think there was also an argument that I should, and I obviously ultimately leaned on that side. There's Masters was a very, very unique situation. This was a guy who was like an anarcho-capitalist for many years, steeped in libertarian literature, obviously departed a little bit from that, or maybe a lot from that, but still had very libertarian leading tendencies. It's just a very, very different type of situation. Like with Blake Masters, you almost didn't know, and even from talking to him privately, kind of got the impression that he really is one of us. And he might be running his campaign in a different way. But I talked to the guy. He told me, I'll say this now, I don't know if I'm betraying confidence or anything like that. But he told me off air that he goes, "Look, I agree with Rothbard on everything, except I think he said he said, "I think, my only disagreement with him is on abortion." And, I was like, "Yeah, I don't agree with him on abortion either." So, it's just a very different situation with Blake Masters, and of course, there's a real difference between getting Blake Masters in there or Mark Kelly, who's just another Biden Democrat. DeSantis, you're talking about the president, and, even Donald Trump from Barack Obama, as different as they are, almost makes no difference in the presidency because there's just, you know, kind of business as usual just takes over. And, as I have no confidence that DeSantis wouldn't be just another warmonger, terrible president. So nah, that's not going to affect anything I do. All right. Nathan asks, can you get Keith Knight on Joe Rogan? P.S. New Jersey is a dump. Come to New Hampshire. Oh, I would love if Keith Knight went on Joe Rogan. That would be very cool. But people ask me a lot if I can get someone so on Joe Rogan or someone else, and it's not that easy to get people on Joe Rogan's podcast. Okay, are there more live chats, or they're not scrolling right now for some reason. Well, now I don't see. Did I read these? Okay, hold on. Sorry, this is my first time doing this. All right, another super chat. I'm sorry. One pissed off hippie writes, "We are being invaded by China, though, buying up farmland and real estate while releasing bioweapons and poisoning millions with fentanyl." All right. Um, yeah, I mean that's very different than being invaded, first of all. And I don't know, they are buying up some land. So that's a whole can of worms to get into. But the poisoning millions of people with fentanyl, honestly, this is this is why we should end the war on drugs. The fentanyl is just it's persisting because there are such big black markets and a lot of people who are trying to get other drugs. You may not love that they're doing those other drugs, but they're getting them on the black market because they're illegal and they're being laced with fentanyl because fentanyl is a great, drug for the, drug dealers to lace with other drugs because it's like very potent and it's a way that they can have huge markups. Legalize all the drugs. People are going to do them whether they're legal or illegal. And if they're legal, they'll be way less likely to contain fentanyl and kill people. All right. Fabian Liberty writes, how do we solve the problem that, quote, libertine voices seem to be amplified most by our opponents and many within the liberty movement? Well, that's a good question. I think we're in the middle of solving that problem. So I think basically the way we do that is that we just destroy them at in every competition, whether that was every debate, every exchange, every vote within the Libertarian Party, inner positions and stuff like that, and just let it be known that you kind of can't pretend anymore that those guys in any way meaningfully represent what our movement is about. So that's what I would say. Daniel said, what are your thoughts on objective morality? What objective moral standard would you appeal to for something such as the non-aggression principle or anything for that matter? You know, I, it's an interesting question. I think that objective morality does exist, and I think that for the most part, when if there's deep kind of abstract philosophical conversations you can have about this, but for the most part, almost all people take it as a given that there is such thing as right and wrong, and as long as that's the case, then I think it's fairly easy to play to that. And like if you were to say to a regular person, I think it's wrong to kill a child, like I think it's wrong to murder a child. um I don't think too many of them are like, well, how can you prove that philosophically? It's just like we all kind of know. We all kind of have this instinct in us. And if we all have this in us, or at least the vast majority of us, then I think maybe the burden should be on others to disprove it rather than on us to prove it. All right. This is a good question. Would you accept a cabinet position in the Ye Fuentes administration if they got Malice as press secretary? If so, what do you think you'd do best? I don't know. I don't know that there's much I would do good. I don't know. That's a lot of hypotheticals there. Would I accept a cabinet position in the Ye Fuentes administration? And then it's contingent on if Malice was the press secretary. Well, I don't know. If Malice got on board with them, look, if there's a Ye Fuentes administration, that might be my best bet to survive. I got to accept that cabinet position. Malice is the press secretary. I don't know. Maybe I'd be like the assistant to the press secretary or something like that. I don't know what I could actually do of value in a cabinet. I could be maybe I could be the head of their disinformation. What was that thing the Department of Homeland Security was going to create? I could be the head of their disinformation board or something like that. Tim writes, will you attend the Rage Against the War Machine rally in DC on February 19th? I believe I have a conflict, another gig that date, so I don't think I'm going to be able to do that, but that's awesome. Full support to those guys. Duke of Shadows writes, how do I convince my wife that abortion shouldn't be her top voting priority, therefore shouldn't vote Democrat? Oh, geez, I don't know. That's a tough one. Um, maybe start by convincing her that there's at least an argument to the other side, you know? But, convincing someone whose top priority is being pro-abortion is tough. All right. Top Lobster, what's up, my brother? Writes, I'll put in a good word with you with Tim tonight. Please do that. But even better, Top, just don't even tell him that we know each other. Maybe just go in there. It's nice. I appreciate the offer, but maybe just go in there and just act like you've never even heard of me and we don't even know each other at all. Have fun on there tonight, man. I'm happy for you. All right. Your boy Clint has been killing it lately. If you haven't watched him trounce that progressive from Kentucky, you have to see it. You have to go on Timcast soon. Luke is gone now, and they need to keep their liberty levels up. Is Luke gone like permanently? No, wasn't he just on recently? Um, I'm going back on. I don't think they asked me to come back on in February at some time, but I'm very busy in February, so it may not be till March. But I'll go back on Timcast soon. I love those guys. Always appreciate them. I appreciate they gave me a shout out the other night and mentioned and plugged my shows that I got coming up in Perryville, Maryland in a couple weeks with Robbie the Fire Bernstein. So looking forward to being down there. I think some of those guys are gonna come out to the show. So I love those guys. The whole team there at Timcast, all great people. All right. Carlos writes, if you were president, would you consider hiring Julian Assange and Edward Snowden to do a Twitter files on the government? Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting idea. They're both in, or I shouldn't say both of them, but Julian Assange is in bad shape. I don't know if he's coming to do any other job, but I would certainly pardon both of them. All right. So, okay, let me read. VBDC, Venice Beach Dub Club, says, you used to mention the fifth of freedom fighter music all the time. I want to mention myself, VBDC, Anomaly, High Res, and Jimmy Levy. We're out here doing our best to get traction in the face of censorship. If you run, I will write you an anthem. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Did I used to mention them all the time? I don't know, but I do very much appreciate that offer to write me an anthem. Thank you. Hey, write me an anthem whether I run or not. I want a dope anthem. Write me a dope ass anthem. All right. Cynic Sir writes, how do I convince my boyfriend's wife that Mel Gibson would be good for the Mises Caucus? That's you just keep trying, man. You keep chipping away. SW2205 writes, when are you going to go on Sidebar with Vivia and Robert Barnes? I know those. I can't remember who those guys are, but I know I've heard their names before. But yeah, I'm down to go on. I don't know. Is there an argument to be made that the SCOTUS got overturning Roe v. Wade wrong on the grounds of the 14th Amendment. After all, no one killed by an abortion has had a day in court to deprive them of life. I'm going to go ahead and say no. I don't think there's an argument to be made there. Hi, Dave. You missed my last super chat. In the internet of getting full range of how libertarian opinions on issues, would you talk to or read Walter Block's Classical Liberal Case for Israel? DM me for copy. I believe I read Walter Block's Case for Israel, but it was a long time ago, and I don't remember it well enough to like comment on it today. So I just can't. I honestly can't remember. I think I read this, but I think it was years and years ago. This is something he wrote a long time ago, right? Like I think I might have read this like 15 years ago. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if push came to shove. I don't think Walter Block is going to defend the worst of the violations of the Israeli government against the Palestinian people, but I don't know. Okay, sorry, I meant to say you, this is VBCD. Sorry, I meant to say you used to always mention the lack of freedom fighter music. You definitely never mentioned me. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think that's true. Ron Paul used to always say, if we're going to have a revolution, we're going to need young people and we're going to need music. And so I remember, yeah, I used to talk about, I know what you're saying now. I used to always say that during like the George W. Bush years and the Barack Obama years, you're like, how is there not just like great anti-war music? Like in the late 60s and stuff, there was like this great anti-war music because we were in Vietnam. But when we were in Iraq and Afghanistan and all the others, you just didn't see that much of it. So that's something we could definitely use for sure. All right. Man, these chats are coming in a lot. So this is why people monetize their YouTube channels, huh? Because people just pay you to talk. Brandon writes, under what conditions, if any, would you support open borders? That's it's an interesting question. I mean, really, to me, libertarianism isn't really supporting open or closed borders. We're against everything the government does. So what I would support open borders if a private property owner wanted to have their borders open. I'd support them being completely wide open. And in fact, I think when things are private, some borders will be wide open. Like there are if you think about private property, right? Like there's you could go to like one of those like a shopping mall and the borders are open. Anyone's allowed to come in. Anyone can come in, they can buy whatever they want to, they can leave when they feel like it, they can come back when they feel like it as long as they're open. And in my house, there's pretty strict border control, Like my family is allowed in and my close friends and pretty much nobody else. So like those are the conditions under which I'd support open borders. Now, if there is going to be a government and that's the world we're living in, which is so already not exactly what I support, but less than ideal. If you had, let's say theoretically, we had no welfare state and we didn't have anti-discrimination laws and we didn't have, public schools and we didn't have rules where you couldn't turn people away from the emergency room and we didn't have like a whole host of other issues that we didn't have. And if we had a culture that really encouraged people to adopt to fall in line and integrate into our culture and adopt principles of liberty and capitalism and all of that stuff, then perhaps maybe that could work. But I don't think basically when you have the government controlling the borders, no matter how open or how closed they are, it's not libertarian. And so I would in if you have an option of a lot of bad non-libertarian choices, I'd say I'm going to probably support whatever I think will work the best. And that under current situations is not open borders, if that makes sense. But if people aren't, like I said, people, as I've said many times before, people don't have a right to move onto property that they weren't invited onto and they don't own. And that is the reality with a lot of the immigration that's happening right now. And a lot of times libertarians who give me pushback on this, they'll say things like, well, if I want to bring someone from Mexico onto my private property, you have no right to stand in my way, which is true from the libertarian perspective. But the other, like, but then dealing in reality, you're like, when a caravan of 100,000 people just walk over here and no one invited them to, they don't just have a right to walk into our country. There's no libertarian case for that. Okay. Dank writes, "Hey Dave, saw you in Poughkeepsie for the second show and you rocked. I've got a question. Any libertarian media guys need a video editor? I want to put my skills to good use fighting for the good fight." Well, thank you. Thank you for coming out to Poughkeepsie. That was fun. We had a good time out there. And I appreciate that. Guys, go check out Dank if any of you guys need a good video editor. He's here. All right. Secure Your Future writes, "What is the key distinction between how libertarians want a society to be run and the way the Church of Satan's founder, Anton Levy, wanted to?" I don't really know much about that guy and how he wanted, so I really can't answer that. But I think there's probably a pretty big difference between how the Church of Satan's founder and libertarians want society to be run. So I don't know. I don't know anything about that guy or what his vision was, so I can't really answer that question very well. I apologize for that. Okay, I got to wrap up in a second here, but I'll take a few more. Let me I'll answer a few non-super chat questions if you guys want to throw them in the chat here, just so you don't think I'm just here trying to make money. Oh, wrap up what? Wrap up this stream. Okay. All right. Blake K writes, "What are your thoughts on public land and wildlife that the state manages? It seemed to work out, but I could be convinced of doing something else. I'm pretty sure it's funded voluntarily." Now, if it's funded voluntarily, then it can continue to be funded voluntarily, and then that's just fine. Privatize it. If there's enough people who don't want it to be turned into anything else, then that's great. I'd like it to stay as wildlife. Hold on. Shoot, lost you. David, strong name, writes, "Who would you support in this hypothetical 2024 matchup? Republican Donald Trump, Libertarian Justin Amash, Democrat Marjorie Taylor Greene." She's the Democrat in that case. I mean, I'd support Justin Amash, but there's, like if Justin Amash was in a position where he could win and be the president, I'd absolutely support Justin Amash. Justin Amash would be a much better president than any president we've ever had. Like I'm confident in that. The issue with Justin is that when you're running from a third party that realistically has no shot of actually winning, you're kind of like, well, what are you doing here? What's actually your point? And I think the point should be to wake people up and spark, that express to people that there's a whole different way that they could think about things and kind of like really galvanize people. And I think that constantly going on national television to talk about how your major issue is that the process isn't the way the process should be, and we're actually supposed to have more democracy in the House of Representatives has zero chance of doing that. So that's all right. Let me see. So non-super chat questions. Dave, I'm now in possession of a felony due to an unelected agency writing laws outside of its power. How far do they have to push before we're justified in pushing back? Well, let me just say, because I'm on video and we're doing a stream here now, that I do not support anything that violates any laws. If you're asking when you're justified for pushing back, that time was long ago. That's a very different question than whether it's wise to push back or not. You get what I'm saying? So fight battles you can win and don't fight battles that you will lose. This isn't about morality. This is art of war shit here. So it's not about when you're justified against pushing back. But let me tell you, when you're aggressed upon, you're justified in defending yourself. If the question is justified. All right. David writes, do you think you will ever debate, discuss Ben Shapiro or any other big conservative names? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. You never know what the future's gonna hold. I just kinda keep doing what I'm doing, and anyone who wants to invite me on a big platform, I'll do it. I've been on with some big conservative, names. I've been on with Glenn Beck and Greg Gutfeld and people like that. Ben Shapiro, I'm well open. I'd have him on my show, I'd do his show, whatever he wants to do, but who the hell knows? Um, okay. As Josh writes, as much as I love this prison cell wall you've live streaming in front of, here's some money for decorations or shelves or something. I know I should put something up here. I'm building a studio. I'm building a really dope like fucking studio. I've already spent like 30 grand on it. So I'm like, it's gonna be very nice. And I just the date of it, everything, like there was construction and then buying the equipment and then all this stuff. And it just kept getting pushed back and pushed back. So I kind of felt like I was like, "Oh, I'll be in front of this for like a couple weeks," but it's turned into more like a couple months. So you're right. I should put something up on the wall in the meantime. You're probably right about that. But my appeal isn't really about the aesthetics and what's behind me. It's about the ideas that I'm conveying, which is why I probably should have saved money and not bought this whole this whole thing. Ancient says when Ben Shapiro was asked, he said, "Who is Dave Smith?" That's probably accurate. Fair enough. He doesn't need to know who I am. That's fair. Uh, Snatch Duster, that's a good name. Writes, "Will you have Sam Hyde, the ghost of Kiev, on Part of the Problem?" Sure, sure, I'll have him on. All right, let me see. All right, we got anything else? Here, I gotta run in a second. You know what? Maybe I'll start doing these. These are kind of fun. I like having the doing AMAs like this, and I like people giving me money. Maybe I'll start doing these like regularly. Regularly. What's your favorite Patrice joke? Ooh, that's a good question. Oh man, there's so many great Patrice jokes. I honestly, I could sit here for literally no exaggeration. I could do 45 minutes of telling you great Patrice jokes that I like, and not just Patrice jokes, Patrice rants, Patrice bits. But I will say the one that's coming, just the one that just popped to the front of my head right away. So I don't know if this is actually my favorite, but the one that popped up right away was Sexual Harassment Day, how there should be sexual harassment day at work, and the whole thing about how asking men to work with women is like asking bears to work with what did he say? With honey coated salmon. It's just the fucking best, man. The guy was so great, so brilliant. This incredible human being, one of the most incredible human beings I've ever met. And he was like a larger than life personality. You just it was incredible to just like sit in a room with him and listen to him. Um, okay. From Louisiana here, what's the closest chance I have to come seeing a show of yours? Stay tuned. I'm still booking a lot of stuff for 2023, so I don't know how close or if I'll be in Louisiana, but I'll try my best to get out in your area. Um, Destiny debate, question mark. You had opposite reactions to Neil deGrasse Tyson. I've said before, I'm open to debate that guy. I don't really know that much about him. But I've seen like a couple things that I was just like, "Oof," wasn't really my cup of tea. But I'd be open to doing a debate with him. I know there's been a lot of people who have been asking us to do that. Maybe we'll set that up at some point. All right. All right, guys. I think I'm gonna wrap up on that one. All right. I promise you guys I'll start doing these a little bit more regularly or until I get booted off this whole thing. So we'll see. All right. Thanks everybody for hanging out with me. And all right, catch you soon. Peace.